All right, so today we're going to talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears and its role in Magic: The Gathering, Throne of Eldraine. We can tell you a little bit about the history of this story as well. So the first card we're going to talk about, there's really just one card that was mainly in this, which is called Flaxen Intruder. And she is a bad-looking Goldilocks, carrying a bear trap and a sword, with a little bit of blood on the sword. It's kind of scary. But in the game, she creates three bear tokens. So she creates the three bears. So we have three versions of it. So we have the regular one. We've got a foil of it. And yeah, the foil is actually pretty neat looking. And then we have what's called an alternate art. If you don't know the game well, this is an alternate art card. And it's quite beautiful with the story book border, which is unique to this set in the game, actually. There's only one bear, but I did pull out three bear tokens because we got three bears. Bear's kind of a boring bear, I actually think, but he's a little bit scary looking. All right. So the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it's an old one that was handed down, handed down by word of mouth for quite a long time. It didn't necessarily. There was a whole bunch of different versions of it out there, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. So Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it was originally titled The Story of the Three Bears. It's a British 19th century fairy tale, of which three versions exist. The original version of the tale tells of a badly behaved old woman who enters the forest home of three bachelor bears. Whilst they're away, she sits on their chairs, eats some of their porridge, and sleeps on one of their beds and breaks their chair. When the bears return and discover her, she wakes up, jumps out the window, and is never heard from again. The second version replaces the old woman with a little girl named Goldilocks. And a third, and by far the most well-known version, replaced the original bear trio with Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear, who is not actually an infant, but rather a small cub. So, what was originally a frightening oral tale became a cozy family story with only a hint of menace. The story has elicited various interpretations, has been adapted to film, opera, and other media. Goldilocks and the Three Bears is one of the most popular fairy tales in the English language. All right. So a couple things of note. There's all kinds of information on the internet. Wikipedia actually had a whack of information. I think it's like 9 pages long, all about the story. If you want to learn more. But in 1865, Charles Dickens referred to the story, and he actually had the house belong to hobgoblins in his version of the story. So really interesting. There was a later variations of Goldilocks had a 12 years after the first publication, transferred the antagonist of the ugly old woman to the pretty little girl in a book called The Treasury of Pleasure Books for Young Children. Okay. Basically, once he put the little girl in the story, he suggested that people portray an attractive child in the story rather than an ugly old woman, and clearly it's made sense because the book's done really well over the years. Goldilocks' fate varies in many of the retellings. In some versions, she runs into the forest. In some, she's almost eaten by the bears, but her mother rescues her. In some, she vows to be a good child, and in some, she returns home. Whatever her fate, Goldilocks fares better in Southie's vagrant old woman, who in his opinion deserved a stint in the House of Correction, or jail. And far better than Miss Muir's old woman, who is impaled by a steeple on a church. So, the story uses the rule of three. So I think we actually will mention this as well when we were talking about the other Three Little Pigs. But it uses the rule of three in that it has 3 chairs, 3 bowls, and 3 beds. Also, the sequence is 3 sequences, right? And so everything in there is using the rule of 3, which is a really popular literary, especially at the time, a really popular literary thing. So there's a bunch of adaptations. MGM made one. The Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies made a cartoon with 3 bears, a deadpan sort of an irascible father, a deadpan mother, and an oafish 7-year-old baby large bear in diapers. Do you remember seeing that?
Yes. Where the baby drives a car?
No, he's a big bear and he is in a big diaper.
Yeah,
Really, okay.
And I think he
drive
rides
the car?
he drives the car, and then the dad sits in the passenger seat, and then the mom sits in the back.
Maybe. Yeah.
No, the dad sits in the back, and the mom sits in the passenger seat.
But it's a baby. It's a 7-year-old.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's funny.
Yeah. So there's also what else have I got here? There's also the Berenstein Bears, which they think may or may not go back to the Three Bears. There's a bunch of Sesame Street ones. There's actually an author we like, Roald Dahl, was involved in making an opera on the Three Bears. So that's pretty cool. What else do I got? I think that's about it. So thank you for watching our video. If you're just tuning in, there will be a part 2, which actually we read the story. Everybody have a safe and magical day.